I'm going to go over the acrylic wet mount process. This is really useful. You don't have to redo your drawing over and over again. So if you make a mistake, you can re-wet mount it down. You don't have to worry about recapturing the vitality in your drawing when you're transferring it. So we'll be able to put this down and then start washing our acrylics over it. You could also go oil over this. There's a lot of mixed media stuff we'll do later with it. Okay, so this is just an on-location sketch that I'm using for this. And I put these dots on here, so they'll act as a guide when I put the tape around it later. The product on the left here is what I'm using for this demo, and it's the matte medium. I like the Liquitex. I haven't found anything that works as good, and I don't have any affiliation with Liquitex or anything. It's just some of the other ones are very gummy and they just don't work very well. So I'm using illustration board here, but for some things, sometimes I'll use leftover matte board. I mean, if I was just doing color comps, I might use just cardboard or chipboard or something. Basically, I'm just coating the surface of the illustration board, and then you can see to the right over here, my sketch is face down, and I'm going to coat the back of that. So I'm using this a little heavier than I usually do, but it'll be fine for this. And I can reuse this leftover matte medium when I coat the front. And right now I just want to get it flat with the brush. And there it is, flat. And then I like to take a credit card and squeegee it down so I don't get any lumps, and it'll help me not get air bubbles in it when I flip it over. Also, I'm using wax paper under this. I use wax paper for all sorts of things because things don't stick to it, so I use it for palettes and things like that. It's really useful. Now I just want to get this smooth. I'll use my credit card again and get any air bubbles out of it, any lumps. Sometimes, because there's a little bit of body to that matte medium, so I want to make sure that there's no kind of lumps or anything in it. Okay, so now I'm going to hit the front of it with some more matte medium. I'm going to use my credit card to get it nice. I like to squeegee it so I don't have a big layer on it. If you wanted to get a little more texture, then you could use a brush. And you get a little more sort of the brush texture-y thing underneath it, which is kind of nice to support your brush work as you work over it. Also, make sure you're using an okay grade of paper. This is just a little better grade of copy paper. It's just got a little bit of weight to it. Don't use that stuff that's sort of like newsprint, and if you hit it with any water or anything, it just sort of falls apart. You don't want to use that. So here it is, it's dry. I'm going to start putting my tape on, and I'm following those dots I talked about earlier. Now usually I make the dots almost imperceptible gray. I made them a little darker on here so they get picked up on camera, and they'll just disappear into the washes. Now I could put another bead of matte medium around where the tape edge is, and that would keep it from bleeding under, or I could even put one more layer, squeegee a real thin layer over it, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to grab some paint and start going over it. I like to put an orange wash down. I'm making it a little heavier here so it'll pick up good on camera, and it just sort of gets rid of all that white, and I can let that warmth pop through as I'm going through the illustration or painting. I'm just going to take my straight edge and an X-Acto, go out to the outer edge of the tape, and that's just going to give me a nice clean white border on here. When you pull the tape off, pull it away from the illustration and do it a lot slower than what I'm doing here. I'm doing it too fast here, so I pulled up a little of the board. Normally I'm really careful with this and I get a nice clean white border, and that presentation is really important. Also use a low tack tape like a drafting tape or an artist tape, and I usually take some of the tack off on my shirt or my pant leg or something like that. Okay, so that's it. We'll be using this quite a bit in classes. We're moving into acrylics, but we'll also use it a lot for mixed media stuff, so it's going to come in pretty handy.